Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the undergraduate webinar series, an interactive online platform connecting high school students to the Ashoka community. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for the Q&A with admissions. I am Shaurya Chima, and I work with the Office of Outreach at Ashoka University. Joining me are Janvi Datta and Kopal Agarwal from the Office of Admissions, and together we will try to address your queries regarding Ashoka's holistic undergraduate application process. So let's get started. Janvi and Kopal will quickly take us through the admissions process, and then we shall take your questions. I request everyone to kindly type your questions in the Q&A box provided on your Zoom panel. Over to you, Janvi and Kopal. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Shaurya. So I think before we get to the questions, we'll quickly talk about the admissions process, and then we can get to specific queries that you have. So as you know, the first round application deadline is coming up, and it's on the 10th. So to participate, to be a prospective student of Ashoka, the first thing you need to do is get a new application. And it's a great time for you because you have enough days to work on your application and submit that. So that's the first step. Work on your application thoroughly and submit that. And after that, when you've submitted your application, you will get all the instructions to participate in Ashoka's aptitude assessment. So for the first round, that assessment is on the 21st of November. And once you're done with your assessment, you will hear from us, and you will be shortlisted for the interview round. So once you participate in the interview round, you would, so after the interview round, you will essentially just be waiting for the results from our end, which will be in the second week of January. So this is what your admissions cycle will look like for the first round. Janvi, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, sorry, there was a slight lag. Yeah, Kopal, I think whatever Kopal said pretty much has it covered. And just similarly to that, and you can access the information on the website as well, there is a consecutive process that is followed similarly for every round. So, given sort of the time of year that you think is most suitable for you, when you think you can spend enough time to put in a thorough application, and by when, of course, you would like to sort of have an offer of admission or sort of know, would be the best time for you to apply. So, of course, we encourage you to sort of apply early, given that there is time to do so now. But of course, keep in mind that in case you do wish to say do it at a later stage, that is also possible. I think if we can actually start by taking questions if you would like, Shaurya. And of course, if there's anything that we think comes up in the questions about the process, we'll add to it as well.
All right, great, thank you. So we have a few questions here already. Let's kick it off, starting with the first question. Are all applicants eligible for the aptitude assessment, or only the shortlisted applicants are eligible for the assessment?
All right. So all applicants are eligible for the Ashoka aptitude assessment, in short. And in fact, it's a mandatory assessment for you. So it's a part of your application process. So, your application, you submit that on the 10th for the first round. But in order to be, considered for admission and the further processes, for instance, the interview round, you have to appear for the aptitude assessment. And that will happen on the 21st of November for the first round. And we've also, heard some queries and some general grievances that students have examinations in the month of November. So we have been very cognizant of that fact. And the good thing is that you don't have to prepare for the aptitude assessment at all. And it's designed to be taken with minimal preparation. And the window in which you can appear for the aptitude assessment is also a fairly big window. So, you can log in anytime from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And you can do it at your home or at any place of your convenience. You just need to have either a desktop or a laptop and a working microphone and a webcam. And of course, a stable internet connection. So these are the only things that you need to have in order to take the aptitude assessment. And yes, in short, it is mandatory for all the students to appear for it.
All right, thank you. So basically, minimal preparation, and they can literally knock off their online assessment and the by 11:30, 12 itself, and get on with the exam for next day. All right, thank you. The next question we have is when and where is the aptitude assessment scheduled?
So, it's not an in-person assessment. So you can do it from your home or any other place of your convenience. So there's no particular geographic space where it will be scheduled. You will be sent all the details about the aptitude assessment by the 15th of November. And for that, you should check the registered email ID from which you've submitted your application. So that email will be comprehensive enough, and you will also get a small demo test that you can perform to see if your system is compatible with the link that you will eventually use to do your aptitude assessment. And the aptitude assessment also has two components. One is a thinking skills assessment, and the other is the on the spot essay. So typically it's a 2 hour long test, and you get a short 5 minute break in between the two tests. And we often get a lot of students who just do one part of the test. So, please be patient, do not hurry. See that you've engaged with both the components, and make sure that you hit submit once you're done with the test.
All right, thank you. And also, if you all can check your chat boxes, the links for the sample assessment and sample on the spot essays have been shared with you as well. Moving on to the next question, what type of questions will be asked in the interview? I'm just curious, what is the need of submitting a candidate's intended major in the application as well?
Okay, so I'll take that question. So the point of the entire holistic admissions procedure is really to get to know the candidate beyond largely maybe conventional parameters that don't necessarily say very much about you. So the point of sort of gathering all of this information and that culminates into an interview is essentially to talk to you about various different aspects of who you really are, the different interests you might have, things you're curious to do, things you've done in the past, and how these sort of experiences of yours have contributed to the person you are currently. Um, Funnily enough, as you mentioned, it is an intended major because Ashoka is entirely a liberal arts program. You're not entirely expected to indicate what it is you sort of want to study for the rest of your time at university up until the end of the third semester, actually. The point of us asking, and there are three preferences, and of course, sort of the focus being on the word intended, is to sort of get an understanding of where your current academic interests lie. And of course, in case you have sort of indicated different options for us to sort of understand, are these subjects you sort of want to bring together? Is this an interdisciplinary interest? What are sort of some things that might have led you to want to choose this at this point in time? It's largely just to sort of understand where you are. I mean, Ashoka is a fairly rigorous academic program, so to just try and understand what your current academic interests are, what are some things you might want to do with it, does it tie in with things you've been doing, is it something you sort of want to explore entirely and it's something that is new to you. So the point of that is really just to it's more like a talking point more than anything. I would say it's not necessarily something you should stress about. It's something that you can change. In fact, that tends to happen quite a lot. As for the kind of questions that are asked in an interview, largely I would recommend for any student that is sort of applying to us and does make it to the interview to sort of be thorough with everything that is in your application form. Similar to the point of wanting to know what your intended major might be. The point is really to understand different aspects of things that you've done, things you're curious about, what sort of makes you you. So most questions you could expect could be centered around any and all responses and information you have input into the application form, and of course, sort of wherever the conversation might lead to from there. There is no template as sort. In many ways, we in fact like to call it a conversation in some ways and not an interview because it can seem a little intimidating. But yeah, the point of it really is just to sort of have a chat with you and understand what are some things that make you tick.
Right. All right. So moving on to the next question is maths mandatory for economics at Ashoka University?
Right. So, yes, mathematics is a requirement. You should have studied mathematics in 11th and 12th to study economics at Ashoka, be it a major or a minor. But this year, we've also updated the policy, especially for CBSE students. And now we consider applied mathematics also. So if you want to read about the policy in detail, I would urge you to go to the admissions page on the website, where you will be able to read all the discipline-specific policies that we have. And I'll also take this time to talk about not just economics, but other majors also have certain requirements. So, for instance, if you want to study mathematics or computer science or physics, there are some pre-requirements that you need to fulfill in order to study these majors. While mathematics is common to all the four disciplines that I've talked about, some disciplines also have some other requirements. So I think it would be a good option for you to maybe look at the website if you are interested in pursuing any of the four disciplines that I talked about. However, you should know that you only intend your major. You only declare your preferred major. You do not have to declare the major that you want to study. That is a choice that you make only after spending 3 semesters at Ashoka. So if you are open to changing your mind and you think that economics maybe not is something that you have studied currently but don't want to pursue it further, so you can totally, come to Ashoka without having studied mathematics, because you will have other disciplines that you can engage with and later pursue as your major.
Right. Thanks, Gopal. I'll just ask a counter question for this as well. So even as a minor in economics, maths will be mandatory for the students?
Yes, both major and minor courses require mathematics.
All right, thank you. I think I'll just take up this next question as it is kind of a repeat. We will be given an option, will we be given an option to take the AAT at a different date? Because as ISC examinations begin from the 22nd. So I'll take up this question real quick. You will not be given a separate date. The assessment has been scheduled on Sunday for a very specific reason. And again, I'd like to reiterate what has been added by Kopal and Janvi, that minimal preparation is required. You literally have to just practice your sample paper, and that's all the preparation you would need. And you can log in as early as 10 in the morning and start off with your assessment, knock it off in the next 2 hours, and then focus on your examination. Point being that it is really minimum preparation required. All you have to do is just take that time out in the morning, and you can knock it off early in the morning and then focus on the examination that is scheduled for the next day. I hope that clarifies this doubt. Next question I have for Janvi and Kopal is, how does the financial aid process work?
Sure, I'll take that question. So the financial aid policy at Ashoka is entirely need-based. I'll talk a little bit about that. It essentially means just to sort of give you an understanding, the financial aid and the admissions procedure is completely separate from each other. So the way that it works is, at this stage, say if you're applying to us, and you sort of make it through the different rounds, and you have sort of done your assessment, you've submitted your application form, you're interviewed, and then at some point you do receive an offer of admission from us. It is at that stage that you have the option to apply for financial aid. It's really not in the picture as of now. So all students get, anyone that receives an offer of admission from us receives, a certain window of time in which they're required to sort of fill out certain requirements to be assessed for financial aid. There is a financial aid office and a separate committee that evaluates sort of your request for financial aid on a range of different parameters, all of which are need-based. This is to reiterate that there are no merit scholarships. Hence we don't call it scholarships, because it's not on the basis of any quota or any kind of merit, or there's nothing really that makes you more eligible for it than anybody else other than need. So yeah, that's how the process is. It's fairly straightforward. It's also integrated online at the stage at which you might be applying for it. You will receive assistance for it. Everybody is eligible to apply for financial aid, and once the decision is made, you're usually informed within a 3 to 4 week window about that, following which there is an acceptance date for every round, and by which you're expected to indicate whether you would be accepting your offer or not.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the next question, it's about the admission process. So how holistic is the admission process? Does Ashoka consider growth if one could not score well in the 11th grade?
All right, so I'll take that question. So the philosophy that we have for admissions is holistic admissions. So, that is something that keeps repeating itself in the various processes and the various stages of the admissions process. So once you begin your application, you will see how little emphasis there is on just your academic scores. So while we do want to see what your academic interests are, how you've done in your school, but that's not where we stop. So we want to know about you, your parents, people in your life. We want to know what you do with your time when you're not studying, be it in your school, be it outside your school. And, and then you will come to the essay section where you will see that we genuinely want to know the sort of a person you are, things that you're interested in, things that you want to learn, and what are your aspirations and dreams from university. And, so there are various sections within the application form which will give you a lot of hints about how holistic the admissions process really is. And not just this, Shaurya has been reiterating the fact that the assessments are also meant to be taken with minimal preparation. So what we're really looking at is how you think. We are not really interested in the formulae that how fast you are with mental calculation. So what we really want to know is who you are as a person, what you think, and what are some things that you're interested in. And this is also something that you will find get repeated in the interview process. So when we talk to you, it's not about your domain specific knowledge. While, if you have specified an interest in English literature, the conversation will definitely go in that direction, but it will also go in other directions. So it is a very holistic admissions process in short. And the other part of the question was about grades, and I think grades in class 11th in particular. So I think there are two ways of looking at it. One is we know that it's been the pandemic world and students are generally facing a lot of hardships. So we are very cognizant of that fact. And that sort of understanding also reflects in the way we read your applications. Um, so we will not hold it against you if you've not done well in your class 11th, or for that matter, class 10th or 12th, right? Uh, and the other thing is there is no one singular parameter that will get you disqualified or will not be good enough for you, because there are so many sections in the application, in the admissions form. So if you feel that you've not done very well in one area, maybe you could make up for your inadequacy or lack of performance in one area by talking about other things that you are interested in and you may have pursued. So no single parameter will be held against you.
Thanks, Kopal. I think that was really well explained. And again, reiterating on it, there are no cutoffs at all. So please do not think of the application process in that manner. All right, next question we have, it's a rather long one, so I'm just going to read it out. My school does offer predicted grades. However, they do not share the predicted grades with the students. Therefore, I will be self-predicting my grades. However, my school did conduct the first semester prelim examinations, for which I do have my mark sheet. So under the grade 12 section of the application, do I attach this mark sheet or simply not attach anything at all?
Okay, so I will take that question. So, there are different educational boards, and for different educational boards, you will see that there are various options that open up when the question of prediction comes up in the academics section of your application form. So, briefly to talk about what predicted grades are, because a lot of you may not know what predicted grades are. So, predicted grades are basically grades that you think you will get in your final board examinations. There are two ways of going about it. Either a school counselor or a subject teacher or your school principal could, evaluate and come at a reasonable estimation of what you will get in your final board examinations, or you could do that for yourself. And how you do that is, you look at your class participation, your how well prepared you are for your school final examinations, and generally how you've been doing in your school, routinely tests. So if you just think about your performance in these three areas, I think you'll be able to come up with a very reasonable estimate for yourself. And if you want to do that, we completely accept that, but you can also get your school to do it for you. But we understand that a lot of schools don't have that option. So, a lot of state boards, some students from ISC and CBSE boards also don't have the option to get a predicted score from their school. So in this case, you can do that for your own self. And in the attachment section, either you can leave it blank, or as the question suggested, the person wants to attach their term mark sheets, you can do that also. That will not be held against you, and we will consider that to be your predicted score. However, for international board students, like Cambridge, A levels, IB, so there you have the option to both give your counselor predicted scores and put in your self predicted scores. So while your counselor may not be able to send us your school predicted scores, we encourage you to please accurately fill out your own self predicted scores, because we don't want to just rely on what your counselor may think of your academic potential in your final examinations. So in fact, that is a mandatory component for all the international boards.
Awesome. Thank you, Kopal, for that explanation. And also, if you have a look at your chat box, everyone, a link has been shared with you for the self-predicted scores. So please have a look at that as well. I'll quickly take the next couple of questions, if that's all right with the both of you. What is the advantage or disadvantage of various rounds? Ideally, how does one decide in which round one should apply? So as you all know, the admission process for August 2022 has started already. We are currently in round one, the deadline for which is 10th of November. Ideally, apply as early as possible. We would say a lot of advantages of applying early. Basically, you can get a confirmed offer of admission and financial aid without your final 12 board results. All right. So ideally, if you apply in round one, as early as the 17th of January, you can have a confirmed offer for admission by Ashoka University. Again, minimal preparation for the assessment, for the on-the-spot essay. You have the time right now, and ideally apply in the first two rounds. In the first round itself would be perfect. Later half of the year, we all know, you will be getting busy with your board examinations, with the final boards as well. So it's rather a big advantage to knock off with the application process and have an offer in your hand as early as the month of January. So totally up to you as to when you can apply. We always advise students to apply early in the rounds. The interest for Ashoka has been going up every single year. So apply as early as possible. There is another part to this question. If we are not selected by Ashoka in the first round, can we reapply? You can only apply once in one academic admission cycle. So if you apply in round one and you get rejected, you will not be allowed to reapply for that particular year. You can start a fresh application for the next year's admission process, but for the current year, you can only apply once in any one of the rounds that you pick out. I hope that answers these questions. Next question we have for Kopal and Janvi. Can our essay responses in the application be creative?
I'll take that question, and Kopal, if there's anything that you'd like to add, please do. So if you've had a chance to look at the application form and the sample apps, you would have seen the questions that have been asked. It also sort of gives away the fact that we're asking different kinds of questions because we'd like to know different kinds of things about you. One sort of focuses on certain kinds of academic engagement you have. One is about your personal experiences and your lived ones, and the rest is and the last question is about a word that you like. If you spend a little bit of time also reading about this, you would see that these all require largely authentic responses from you. The point really is to get to know you, what sort of works for you, experiences you've had, things that have sort of significantly shaped who you are, concepts that might have interested you academically, which might also be a big part of the conversation should you say be shortlisted for an interview, things that we would like to further discuss with you. There is not much room for these responses to be creative. We, in fact, recommend that you keep them as authentic and genuine as possible, because the point is really for us to necessarily know specifically what these answers are for you, and not ones that I mean, that's really not the measure of what we are looking at here. So I would highly recommend staying far away from any sort of creative responses. Kopal, would you like to add anything? Okay.
Thanks, Janvi. The next question is, the details on the website say that the assessment is based on the CTSA, which is the Cambridge Thinking Skills Assessment. Does this apply for the actual paper as well, or just the sample paper given?
I'll take that one. So the assessment is basically of two components, as we talked about. One is the Cambridge Thinking Skills Assessment, and the other is the Ashoka on-the-spot essay. So when you're talking about the Cambridge Thinking Skills Assessment, that part of your assessment is by Cambridge Thinking Skills. And the sample paper that's been attached on the website, and you can also find the link to the sample paper in the chat box, will give you some ideas about what sort of questions you can expect, and sort of familiarize you with the pattern of the paper, so you're not caught off guard when you actually do the test. I think that covers it.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. All right, moving on to the next question. What kind of prompts, questions will be asked for the on-the-spot essay?
Kopal, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, sure. So on the spot essays, so I think right now I'll begin with making a distinction between the on the spot essays and the essays that you would encounter in your application. So, the purpose of both these essays the purpose is very different. While in the application form, we want to see who you are as a person, and all the things that Janvi has already spoken about. What the on the spot essay does is to look at how you process information, how well you critically think through things, and how well can you express your critical thinking in writing. So the prompts have also been designed to this effect. So you will see that the prompts will make you think critically, and structurally unpack the prompts in such a way that you're able to engage with them very well. So while they don't need any sort of prior preparation, what we really set out to see with the on the spot essays is your engagement with the world. How aware are you? How deeply have you thought about some things around you? Or what is your opinion on some things that are happening around you? Or and when I mean opinion, you don't have to recycle popular opinions that go around. You can tell us how well you've critically thought through every step of an opinion that you've formed. So while I won't really get into the specifics of what sort of prompts are there, you can look at the sample on the spot essays. So that will also give you a good idea about what sort of prompts to expect. And we've also put out some some on the spot essays that some students have written in the previous years, to give you a sense of what sort of responses we have gotten in the past years.
Right. Thanks, Kopal. As Kopal mentioned, the sample on the spot essay is available on the website. The link for the same has already been shared in the chat box, so please feel free to have a look at that. Next question we have is having a 2-year gap proves as a disadvantage in the admissions process?
I'll take that question. No, not at all, actually. I think, especially in light of COVID and us knowing sort of how things have been for students and what it's like to transition to university, I think gap years have become even more normalized than anything at all. But there is absolutely no bias of any form, given whether you've chosen to take a gap year or not, or several in any form. It literally bears no difference on your application form, or the way that you go through the process. There is a section in the app that asks you if you've taken a gap year, and if you have, we would like for you to fill out some information about sort of how you spent your time, because that's again just something we would like to know about you, because we feel it's significant enough and would contribute to the conversation we would have with you about getting to know you better. That is the only way in which I can think that it would sort of come out in your application form, but in no other way, I think, does it have any bearing to your candidature.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Janvi. All right. I'm again quickly just going to take up the next couple of questions, if it's all right with both of you. Um, for the provision of the LORs, which is the letter of recommendation, when the university get in touch with the teacher recommender, from whom should I be getting my letter of recommendation? All right. So when you reach the LOR part of your application, you will notice that you do not have the power to upload the recommendation letter. We need the LOR coming in directly from the recommender. So what we ask you to do is fill in the details of your recommender, the recommender who will be writing your LOR, and an email will be sent out to the recommender as and when you use the save and send option in the LOR section. So as soon as you fill in the details and click on that particular option for the email to be sent, an email will be sent to the recommender and you will be notified as well that your recommender has been notified. Your recommender can open up that email. There'll be a few steps which will indicate on what has to be done, the word limits that we expect, and how to fill in the LOR. And your recommender can open up that link and write and type out their recommender there itself. Now, with respect to who you should get the recommendation from, we always advise that get it from someone who you have worked with professionally or academically, say at least for 6 months to 1 year. Now, that can be someone from your school itself, a teacher who has seen you, grow up, a teacher who can validate your application, someone who's known you for a while, or someone in the professional term as well. If you have interned anywhere for a while, if you have worked with the person, then you can get your recommendation from them as well. But please make sure that you have a fair amount of work experience with that particular person who's getting your recommendation. The reason for the LOR is to just validate your application and what's been written there as well. So as long as it's someone who you have been in touch with for a while, that's perfectly all right. I hope I'm not missing out on anything. Janvi and Kopal, if you want to add something to that.
No, that sounds good, Shailya. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, I'll take up this next question as well, real quick. I am from Muscat, Oman, doing international baccalaureate diploma. Do you have an NRI quota? We do not have any quotas available at Ashoka University. Your application will be treated in the same holistic manner as any other application, and that's how we will look at your application as well. Moving on to the next question we have is, what support is available for those students with mental health issues? Will the interview go in depth to ask about any such topics if mentioned in the application?
Yeah, I'll take that question. Ashoka, if you have a chance to look at the application form as well, there is a section that does sort of lay emphasis on the different centers that are available at Ashoka to provide students with different kind of support. There's generally a range of centers for this that provide different kinds of support, one of which is Ashoka Center for Wellbeing, which focuses on specifically mental health and mental wellness of students. There is so the university itself has the center which offers sort of counseling and therapy as an option for all anybody actually that is a part of the larger Ashoka family, students, faculty, sort of anybody that resides and is a part of this ecosystem. This is again accessible to all students. It is absolutely free of cost. They've actually made a fairly seamless transition to offering this online as well, since things have sort of moved online, as well as being available to students during the vacations. To answer the question about the sort of being brought up in interviews, there is a question in the application form, of course, that asks if there's any kind of additional support you require for A, B, C, D reasons. In case mental health is a reason that you require additional support, it will be brought up in the sense so that we can better understand if there are any requirements you have and how best we can accommodate them. Given that the university is a residential one, and the transition that you would ideally be making from whether it's a home setting or a boarding school setting into a university setting, the questions sort of that you will be asked will be for us to understand what kind of help and support you might require and how best what we can do and what we can do to provide that to you, to make sure that there are no gaps that you have to face.
Awesome. Thank you. Next question we have is, As per understanding, you are conducting online classes for the first year for batch of 2021. Any plans that you have for the batch of 2022?
I'll take that question. So given sort of the general pulse of things after COVID and sort of things opening up and sort of then closing back again, the point is that most of all of Ashoka's accommodation for students is twin sharing, and the UGC as well as the Indian government has not actually sanctioned this sort of going back as a regular practice. As of that is really the primary reason as of now that the campus has not been opened up and has not sort of allowed full capacity to sort of take over. As of now, this is the status. Of course, you will continue to sort of receive updates from us and hear as soon as things sort of go back to the way they used to be.
Yep, precisely, Janvi. Absolutely. All right. Next question we have is, what platform do you use for conducting interviews? Is it on Google Meet or Zoom?
I will take that. So we use Zoom for interviews, but also you don't have to worry about that because you will receive all the instructions from our end. But make sure that you enter your registered email IDs correctly and you don't use any institution affiliated email IDs to begin your application form, because often we've noticed that students after a certain point of time lose access to that email ID, and many times it could be during the admissions cycle or during the round in which you've applied. So if that is the case, it will be difficult for you to hear from us. So that's why we urge you to only give out your personal email IDs, and also try not to start your application using your parent or guardian's email ID, because they may also not be very prompt with replying to emails that are very important to you. So please try to only use your own personal email ID to start your application. And on this email ID, you will receive all the instructions for the interview. And the platform we use is Zoom, and you will be sent a link for the slot that you've picked out for yourself, the interview slot that you have chosen for yourself. So, yeah, I think that should cover it.
Yep. All right. Thank you. I'm again just going to take the next few questions real quick. Will I be at a disadvantage if I'm unable to submit predicted scores from school and instead submit self-predicted scores? No disadvantage at all. Please do not be under an impression that we will look at self-predicted scores separately. No, that is a provision that has been provided to you by us, so we will not have any advantage or disadvantage for that particular thing. Do we have till the end of 10th for the application submission? I'm assuming you're asking for the 10th of November. So for the first round, yes, 10th of November, 11:59 p.m. is when you can submit the application for round one. 12 a.m. basically, or 12:01 a.m., which is 11th of November, round two will automatically start from that point onwards. So yes, for round one, you have 11:59 p.m. on the 10th of November, by which you can submit the application. Another question I have is, can student appear again in second round if not able to make it in the first attempt? Unfortunately, no. You can only apply once in one academic admission cycle. So if you have already applied in round one and unfortunately you do not make it, you can only apply in the next year's admission process, which will be for August 2023, not for the same year. All right. Question for you, Janvi and Kopal. Can we withdraw an offer once we accept it, and how much acceptance fee will be refunded to us?
I'll take that question. Yes, if you take a look at the website as well, there is a refund policy that has been published. In fact, in light of COVID, the UGC has brought up sort of special provisions in the case of withdrawals. So once we do receive the notification for next year, it will be uploaded on the website. Yes, absolutely. While there is an acceptance, excuse me, while there is an acceptance deadline per round for that sort of pertains to the round that you belong to sort of accept and indicate whether you'd like to join, there is absolutely room for you to withdraw at any stage. And that will be executed in line with what the refund policy is at that time.
Awesome, thank you. The next question we have is, what what are standardized tests in the form mentioned? What do we have to fill in there?
Okay, so I will take this question. So I suppose the question here wants to ask what to fill out for the section in the application that asks for standardized tests. So there are two standardized tests that we recognize. One is the SAT, or the Scholastic Assessment Test, and the other is the ACT, that's the American College Testing. If you've not taken any of these tests, that's completely fine, and you can reflect so in your application. So there will be a section where you can, untick or tick a box that says you've not taken the tests. So whichever option is relevant for you, you can do that. But if you have taken the test, we would urge you to, upload your scores, because it will give us additional parameters to look at your application from. And we also have a DI code, and you can access a DI code from the website or even in your application. And you can use the DI code to send us your SAT scores. And you can also upload your SAT scores or your ACT scores on your application. That is, if you've done both these tests or even one of these tests. And you can upload, whatever relevant supporting documents you have for these.
Awesome. Just a follow-up question on that, Gopal. So do they need to send their SAT scores through College Board, even though if they have attached the score report on the application?
So we encourage students to send us their scores through the College Board, but you can also just mention it on your application if you don't want to do that. And also the College Board does not charge any fee if you want to send us your scores through them. So, you wouldn't be at a disadvantage if you did send us your scores through the College Board.
Awesome, thank you. All right, the next question we have is, for uploading the 10th results, do we need to ask for transcripts necessarily from our schools, or we could use the mark sheet report card given to us before itself?
Okay, so I will take this question. So, for uploading your class 10th results, and we know that all of you have done your class 10th, that's how you get promoted to class 12th. So you should ensure that you submit your, board generated mark sheet only, something that can be used for official purposes. So do not upload your term mark sheets. Do not upload something that your school would have done for an internal examination. Either submit your board mark sheet if you're from ICSC, CBSC, or state boards, or even the international boards. You would know what a board mark sheet looks like. But for some reason, if you don't have access to your board mark sheet at that time, you can also get your school to attest and verify the marks that you scored for your class 10th and attach that.
All right, thank you again. Okay, moving on to the next question. The essay topics in the form, will they remain the same for all the rounds, or will they be changed?
We don't change the essay questions in the form, and they will be same irrespective of the round that you apply in one admissions cycle. But the on-the-spot essay questions keep changing. Although you won't be at a disadvantage irrespective of the round that you apply in, because these are questions that you don't have to prepare for in advance.
Right. The next question is, will the interview question or will the interview questions be technical in a sense that the questions will be based on the intended major we enter?
I'll take that. I think just like we reiterated a little time ago as well, the questions are not technical. Try and think of it as a conversation. We would recommend that you are sort of thorough with the things that you have written about yourself and indicated about yourself in the application form. And of course, given that it is a holistic admissions process, we also don't necessarily focus largely on any one aspect of the form. It's not that the conversation is largely going to be centered around your intended major. We would really like to talk to you about a range of things and try to understand. It's literally about sort of giving a face to the application that we've read. So we would like to know a little bit more about that in detail. We would like to know about the things that interest you. If that conversation leads us to have other kinds of conversations, that is the direction that it will take. But absolutely not. It's not like, and again, the emphasis being that it is a liberal arts university, and the point is for students to sort of explore and learn new things and expose themselves to new things. We don't sort of expect you to come in with some sort of, pre-existing knowledge about a subject that we're hoping to test or not test in this interaction. So to answer your question, no, that is not how it will be.
Right. Thank you. Again, I'll quickly just take up the next few questions before I ask you both a few more questions. Uh, can one pursue international relations alongside psychology as a major? You absolutely can do that. In fact, have a look at the majors and minors offered from the website itself. You can make your own combinations as long as you qualify for the pre-required subjects in your senior classes, which is also very, very limited. You can make your own combinations and then decide your major and minors. When can we apply for the financial aid? You can only apply for the financial aid once you get an offer from Ashoka University. After that, you have a period of time when you can apply for the financial aid. Usually it's 7 days. Am I right on that end, Janvi and Kopal? So 7 days after they have the time period and they can apply for the financial aid, but you can only apply for it once you get a confirmed offer from Ashoka University.
Yes. Of course, in case there is any sort of requirement and you require some extra time, absolutely you can reach out, and the financial aid team is there to assist you. But yes, this option only comes up once you have been formally admitted to the university.
Awesome. All right, I'll just take this next question as well. When will the interview for round one be provided, considering we make it through the assessment round? If you don't mind, Janvi, Gopal, I'll quickly answer that. And if you feel there's anything to add, please feel free to do so. So the interviews will most likely start from the 29th of November, all through December, and if needed, maybe early January as well. Now, we do understand that you have your boards in that particular time period, but do not worry. See, our intent is to interview everyone who's been shortlisted. So we will work around a convenient time for you. There'll be certain dates and slots provided to you to select a particular slot for your interview. So you can work around it at your convenience itself. Like I said, we understand that there'll be examinations. So that's why we will make sure that, there'll be plenty of slots available for you. Our intent is to make sure that we interview everyone who's been shortlisted. And if that means we interview you at a more convenient hour that is suitable to you, we will definitely make sure to work around that as well. But yes, do not worry, plenty of time and plenty of slots will be available for you. So we will work around your convenience as well. Anything to add on to that, Janvi, Kopal, at all?
No, I think you've spoken about it very comprehensively, so we can move on.
All right. How should one address the application essay prompts? What is the ideal way to do so?
All right, so I'll take that question. So, you will see in your application that there are 3 different essays that you have to answer, and all the 3 essays carry a different word limit. So the first one is for 400 words, sorry, and the other 2 are for 150 words each. So the first thing to do is to not exceed the word limit. Often we see, what students do is they copy paste, they work on a different document, and then from that document they copy paste, and they only copy paste half their essay because the original essay, the one that they wrote on a separate document, exceeded the word limit. So please, sorry, ensure that you don't do that. And once you fill out your essays in the application, make sure that you read it in the application to just proofread it and see that you've not abruptly ended your essay. So these are some basic pointers that you should avoid. But when it comes to addressing the essays in your application, the 3 questions are very different from each other. So make sure that you read the prompt very well and you answer the prompt. And often you will see that the prompts have different parts. So engagement with all the aspects of that prompt is something that we really look forward to, because we've designed the prompts in such a way that a good answer to that prompt will give us a good idea about who you are. So if you just, if you don't comprehensively respond to the prompt, you then also withhold a lot of information about yourself that we think is very crucial for us. So I think general advice from people who read applications would be to address the prompts as well as you can, and don't think that any information is superfluous information. So there are various, sections in the application, various text boxes in the application. So use them to the best of your ability and to the best of your opportunity, because this is also your space for us to directly speak to people who read your application. So I think, Janvi, if you want to add to something.
No, I think that's fine, Kripal. Thank you for sort of
All
outlining.
right. Okay, moving on to the next question. In the book section, I have not read anything recently in the past year. Can I talk about some books I read earlier?
I'll take that question. So the question is really about books that have had a significant impact on you. So I don't think it really has to do with the recency of when you've read something. If you really feel like you've read something that you think has significantly either left an impact on you or shaped the way you think, or is really just something you enjoyed and are able to talk about, I would say that it deserves a spot under this question. So yeah, I don't think that you should spend too much time thinking about sort of whether it's recent, whether it's popular, whether it's the kind of book you believe that should sort of be on this list or anything of that sort. Really think about yourself, and if you feel like this has left even some sort of an impact on you that you're able to sort of articulate or verbalize for yourself, I would say that you should just put it there.
Awesome. Thank you. How many options for the prompts do we get during the on-the-spot essay?
I'll take that question. So you get two options to choose from for your on-the-spot essay, and typically a student will get 30 minutes to write the essay. So within these 30 minutes, you have to think about the prompt and also write. So yeah, that would be my response.
Right. We have another question around the recommendation. If my recommender is unable to fill my recommendation on time, will that be a disadvantage for my application?
Right, I'll take that question as well. So, the recommendation letter is not a mandatory component in your application. We have added it because we want to know what people who have worked with you and who you have worked with closely think of you in a very professional setting. Because most of the application is very personal and subjective in nature, but we'd also like to get the opinion of somebody else, somebody who has seen you overcome challenges or really work well with people, work well on a project. So that's the reason to include the letter of recommendation. But that being said, we know that a lot of people don't have such a person in their life. So it's okay, and you don't have to, fill out details of people who you don't want to fill out, who you may not have worked with in the past. So you can completely omit to mention a recommender. But if you have mentioned somebody and if they're unable to submit your letter of recommendation on time, that is also fine, because it's not a mandatory field. So we will not hold that against you. But please know that we don't accept your letter of recommendation over email. So whatever you submit as a part of your application, we will consider that, but we won't be considering anything apart from that.
Yep, all right. Again, I'm just going to quickly go through a few questions. And if there's anything that you both feel you need to add, please interrupt me right there and feel free to add those things. A few questions that we have are, what are the basic requirements for a BA in psychology at Ashoka University? Is maths mandatory for psychology majors? So recently, we have the BA honors in psychology now converted into a BSc in psychology. And as of now, there are no pre-requirements to apply for a BSc in psychology. Then we have the next question. Is chemistry mandatory for pursuing a major in computer sciences? No, chemistry is not mandatory. You do need to have maths in your senior classes to pursue computer sciences. That's it about the pre-required subjects for the computer sciences. I prepared my essays in a doc, and when I tried to paste them in the essay section, only half of it got pasted. Could you please guide me through the same? The thing that I can think of is that you may be exceeding the word limit. If that is the case, I would advise you to please check the word limit because usually it is that reason. Do you need to have done history in high school to do an econ history major at Ashoka? Nope, no requirement for history for Ashoka. Even though if you want to pursue economics, Yes, again, you will need to have maths in your senior classes. What happens if there are technical difficulties faced during the examination, preferably with a screenshot of that error, of that particular error that you have, during this examination? Click a screenshot of that and write to ugapply@ashoka.edu.in, and do not wait till the last minute. Try and knock off these exams as early as possible during the day. Um, is LOR mandatory? Can we send more than one recommendation? Nope, LOR is not mandatory at all, but we do only accept one LOR if you are providing that. What documents are acceptable as domicile certificate? Only the domicile certificate is acceptable. If you by any chance do not have a domicile certificate, then please apply for one, and you can attach the receipt that you get for the domicile, proving to us that you have already applied for that. But please do not put in your Aadhaar cards and other documents. We will not be accepting those documents in place of a domicile certificate. All right, moving on to you both again, Janvi and Kopal. I'm just going to ask a few more questions. Regarding the SAT, could we mention that we would be doing the test later, say in March 2022, and send the scores later? Would that be a possibility?
So no, that is not something that we would consider. And the rationale behind that is that, when you have done your standardized tests and you enter your score when you submit your application is processed in that round, right? But if you submit your scores later, we won't be able to do anything with that information, because we would have already taken a decision on your application. So very shortly, like a very crisp way to answer this question would be no, we don't accept that.
Right. And just following up on that question again, while filling out the application, the SAT, ACT scores are obviously being asked. Is it mandatory to give them in order to be applicable for the university?
Not at all. So this section is only for students who have done the SAT or the ACT. But we also conduct the Ashoka aptitude assessment. So if you've not done this standardized test, that's completely fine, because you do get the opportunity to appear for another assessment that will be very similar to these standardized tests.
Right. Thank you. 10th grade results have slots for only 5 subjects. How to add the rest of it?
So this year we have made the provision for you to add more subjects to the 10th grade and even 11th and 12th for that matter. So if you have done more subjects in any of the grades, you can do that in your application. There's a small plus sign at the end of the subject grid in the academic section. You can click on the plus sign and add more subjects and write about them.
Right. I have been studying higher secondary through an open school. Will it affect my admission?
No, it will not affect your admission. So we do get a lot of students from the open school as well. I think there is a small conversion letter. If usually NIOS does not have a conversion letter, but if you have appeared for your examinations through any other board, if they have given you any other supporting documents, you can attach that as a part of your application, but it will not affect your admission at all.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Do you have any fixed number of seats for which will be filled in each round? So are there any fixed seats that are available for each round?
I'll take that question. No, absolutely not. The point of these 4 rounds is really, as we mentioned earlier, for the convenience of the student and the point of time in the year that you would most likely want to know. Honestly, the thing about class sizes at Ashoka is that there is no concept of seats per se. It really just has to do with housing capacity at some point. Maybe that's the only time at which you draw the line. But no, absolutely not. It's your chances are not affected in any way based on the round you apply and because of the belief that there are seats that fill up.
Awesome. Thank you. Does the AAA, which is the Ashoka Aptitude Assessment, have any negative markings attached to it?
No, it does not.
All right. Can we write the same major in all three options in the application?
I mean, that's not ideal. But sorry, Kopal, I think you were going to take the question, but please add to it. No, that's not ideal at all, given that, I mean, the hope and the sort of, again, premise of a liberal arts education is, multiple interests and an interdisciplinary education. Even in fact, if you feel, I mean, I would personally recommend if you feel like there's only one thing that you're drawn to, I would say try and spend some time and think about other things that you might be interested in or might contribute to that very existing interest already, because you will definitely be made to study in that manner when you are at university. So I think that um, sort of to be interested in a liberal arts education, you would be required to at least have some sort of winning interest in other disciplines.
Awesome. Thank you. Again, I'm just going to quickly take up a few questions before I ask you, I think, the last few questions that we have left. All right. Instead of typing the LOR, can the recommender attach a file which they have written and issued by the school letterhead? There is no attachment option. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Janvi and Kopal, but there is no attachment option. Your recommender would have to type in the recommendation through the email that is being sent out to them from the university. Am I right in that? Yeah, all right, awesome. Do I get a notification once my recommender sends the LOR? You will get a notification once we send out a notification once the recommender is notified for the LOR. But once the recommender fills in the LOR, Janvi, Kopal, do they get a notification at all regarding the same? So you'll be getting a notification while your recommender gives in the recommendation as well. All right, we have another question. I'm just going to quickly take up this as well. Can we do 1 year abroad study for BSc psychology so that will apply in PhD for Canada after completion, where they need 16 years of studies? That is 12 plus 4 years of UG course. You can do the 4th year at Ashoka University, which is an optional 4th year, which gives you a postgraduate diploma in advanced studies. So you can do that 4th year, which will count for your 16th year, and then eventually you can pursue your PhD wherever the university may require a 16-year in education. All right, again, bouncing some questions off to you, Kopal and Janvi. For the activity section, how do we prove we participated in the activity if we do not have a certificate?
All right, so I will take that question. So, in the section which asks you for your non-academic interests and engagement, you will notice that there are three activities that you have to talk about. And we know that a lot of students may not have certificates or any sort of collaterals for certain sort of activities, which could be more private and personal in nature. For instance, reading or baking or cooking or, painting. So these activities don't usually warrant a certificate, and we understand that. So in this case, you can write about your activity and you would see a small text box. So in the text box, you can briefly describe what this activity means to you, how has it changed you, the sort of impact it's had on you. But sorry, if you have a portfolio or any sort of artwork that you would like to attach in place of a certificate, you can do that, right? And there are certain activities which you participate in as a part of your school or on a larger platform. And the assumption is that for those activities, you would get a certificate. When you participate in activities in your school, or you represent your school in other schools, or even, if you've played something at the district or state or the national level, we know that, sorry, the boards give out certificates for such activities. So if you have undertaken any of these activities, you will be required to also submit a certificate for these.
All right, thanks, Kopal. Another question we have is, what is the word count for the on-the-spot essay?
There is no word count for the on-the-spot essay. The only limitation that we have for the on-the-spot essay is the time limit. And you will have to write your on-the-spot essay within the stipulated time. But I would also just like to qualify my statement by saying something that, we don't really look at how long your essay is or how verbose it is. What we want to see is how well you've engaged with the prompt and how critically you've thought about it. So don't be very caught up on increasing the length of your on-the-spot essay. Make sure that you do a good job of engaging with it.
All right. On which platform or on what platform will the exam be conducted?
So we have partnered with an external agency, Metal. They also proctor for us, and that's the platform that you will use to do both your Ashoka aptitude assessment, both the components of that.
Awesome, thank you. What is a domicile certificate and why is it needed? Just if you can throw some light on that as well, please.
Yeah. Sorry, Cooper, would you like to take that?
No, it's okay. You can go ahead.
No. It's so I mean in this case with our application form specifically, it's a Haryana domicile certificate, which essentially is a sort of it's a government notification which is essentially for proof of residence. Ashoka is a private university that falls under the Haryana Private Universities Act, so there are certain provisions for which you need to provide a domicile certificate as proof to be sort of to avail of certain things. This and there's of course an online format through which you can apply for this, and you would be required to have the formal certification for you to take forward any of these requests.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. I'll just take the last couple of questions. I think we have almost come to the end of it. Will I be getting a degree in sciences if economics is my major? Short and simple answer is no. And the last question for you, Jahanvi and Kopal, thank you so much again. Can you redo the Ashoka aptitude assessment?
So no, you cannot redo the Ashoka aptitude assessment. There's one date within the round in which you apply for you to do the Ashoka aptitude assessment, and you can do it just once at that time.
Awesome. All right. I think those are the questions that we have. So thank you everyone for joining us today for today's webinar. I hope this session was helpful in clarifying your doubts regarding the application process and the application form itself. Before we wrap up this session, we would really appreciate it if you could take out just a minute to share your valuable feedback with us. The link to the feedback has already been shared with you in the chat box. Also, just in case you want to refer to this video at a later stage or share this video with your friends, it'll be available on the Ashoka's YouTube channel as well. So before we just wrap up, I would once again like to remind the audience that the round one for the admissions to Ashoka's undergraduate program is open, the deadline for which is the 10th of November. Reiterating again, you do not have to wait for your class 12 board marks to apply or to get a confirmed offer of admission and financial aid as well. You can get it as early as the month of January next year. So, please do not wait for your class 12 boards and think that you will need that particular, board marks to apply for the admission. If you have any further questions at all regarding anything, please feel free to write to us at ugapply@ashoka.edu.in. And also the number that is shown on your screen between any time between 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. You can also register for a one-on-one admissions guidance session if you need very, very specific help to complete your application form. The link to this also has been provided in the chat box. Once again, Janvi and Kopal, thank you so much for taking out the time and participating in the discussion. I'm sure everyone's going to walk away with a lot of knowledge about the application. This brings us to the end of the session. Please take care, everyone, and have a safe Diwali. Thank you again. Thanks again, Kopal and Janvi.
Thank you very much for attending. Thank you, Cooper.
And happy Diwali to everyone. Please take care. Have a safe, smoke-free Diwali. Yeah. All right. With that, we come to the end of it. Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot. Have a good evening.
Bye.